It's been a minute since I've made a video. I just haven't been that in love with pro wrestling right now. And was just waiting for something that I really felt good about and really felt passionate about to make a video and give my thoughts on. And that's why we're talking about AEW Full Gear today. What I thought was an all-around fantastic show. I thought it had one weak bit to it, but other than that, solid action throughout with some truly great moments and one match of the year contender in my mind. So I'm really excited to talk about this. If this is your first time on the channel, what I do, I go through match by match, give my review of them and a star rating from 0 to 5 stars, 0 being an absolutely terrible, awful match, 5 being one of the greatest matches of all time. And I'll tell you right now, there is a 5-star match on this card, in my opinion. But we're going to get into it. If you like the video, please consider subscribing, leaving a like, leaving a comment, all that stuff that really, really helps a small channel like mine to grow. With all of that being said, I am Isaiah from Hot Tag Wrestling. Thank you guys so much for watching, and let's get into it with our first match on the show. To start, I'll talk briefly about the match that leaked over from the pre-show. It was a trios match for the AAA trios titles, I think. I'm not exactly sure. It was Takeshita Okada and Hechicero facing Mascara Dorada, Neon, and Mystico. And it was a pretty good match. Like, there was some decent Lucha Libre spots. It was a little slow at times. With Lucha, you really have to be at the top of your game to really make me say wow. And this wasn't quite there, even though it did have Dorada in it. Big takeaway, though, is no real advancement for the Takeshita Okada storyline. We're in pretty much the exact same point we were after the Brodito match. So this didn't really advance anything for me. In fact, this match should have probably come before the Brodito match. It would have made more sense for them to have this little bit of falling out and then do the big angle when they face Brodito for the titles. As it was fine, pretty useless. A TV match that bled over into the main card of the show. Inoffensive at points, but didn't really do anything for the storyline, and is sort of getting to the point with Takeshita and Okada where I'm like, let's get to it already. Let's do it. We've been teasing it for a while now, and I'm excited for the match, but my excitement is starting to wane a little bit. So I gave this 3 stars. Perfectly fine, perfectly functional. First full match on the card was Pac versus Darby Allin. Like I said at the beginning, I haven't really felt anything for pro wrestling in a while, but this match made me feel something, and this is the match that really got me excited for this show and wanted me to make this video. I love this match. I thought it was great. I'm definitely going to be the high guy on it because this match really adhered to a style of wrestling I love, which is, you don't have to go crazy and do a bunch of stuff that blows my mind, but if you just hit each other really hard, make the impacts look like they really connect, really snug, and get some great near falls out of that, perfect. That's all I need. I'm definitely a big fan of these two. I love Darby probably as much as everyone else who watches AEW loves Darby. And I am the high guy on Pac. I absolutely love him. I think he's fantastic. One of the best in the world right now. So I was super excited to see him get a singles match on this card. Yeah, and they just beat the hell out of each other. Really snug impacts, really, really good selling. There were a few wonky bits in the match. I don't feel like they properly executed the story they were trying to tell with Darby's burn. There was only one real spot where that came into play, and other than that, it was just sort of a standard back and forth. And the ending with Pac winning was a little bit weird, even though I'm such a big fan of him. It was a little bit weird. It was a little bit of an anticlimax with Wheeler Yuta interfering. I think that's what it was supposed to be. It was supposed to leave fans going, oh, I wanted Darby to win, but Wheeler interfered, so Pac got the win. That's what they were going for, but it was sort of an anticlimax, even if it was intended to be so. So that sort of sucked the life out of the end of the match a little bit. I'm not sure why they booked Pac to win. I love it. If they want to send Pac on a winning streak, put him in the Continental Classic, really make him go full hog on him, great. I'd love that. But I don't necessarily know if that's what they're going to do. I think they just gave him the win so that Darby could get the win back, maybe during the Continental Classic. I don't really have the faith that they're going with Pac as one of the big guys going forward. So a little bit of mixed emotions at the end. I don't necessarily have the confidence in the booking to be a fan of this ending. But ending aside, I thought it was a fantastic match, really, really hard hitting. The kind of stuff that applies to me. Like I said, I'll be higher on it than most people. I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. Most people would probably put this in the 4-star range, but it just thrilled me to no end to see Darby flopping around, Pac being just this powerhouse. I really, really loved it. A four-way tag match next. It was Toni Storm and Mina Shirakawa taking on Willow Nightingale and Harley Cameron, taking on Megan Bayne and Marina Shafir, with the final team being Sky Blue and Julia Hart. This was not a match for the women's tag team titles, but rather a match to secure an advantage for the finals or the semifinals of the tournament. Didn't really make too much sense, in my opinion. And I didn't really love this match. I thought it was pretty meh, considering, it's not shocking considering some of the people in here. I'm not really that high on Sky Blue or Holly Cameron. I don't really like Mina Shirakawa that much. I don't think she does it for me in the ring. And you had people in here like Willow and Marina and Julia, who situationally are great. And those situations are generally reserved to singles matches. When you get into the multi-man matches and you're having them, incorporate their spots into this fluid narrative, it doesn't really fit that well. Willow, especially, is someone who I've just always loved in singles matches, but never liked in triple threats or fatal four ways or, multi-man matches like this. So didn't really impress me with the action. Didn't really need to be here. I would have much preferred if we cut the Okada Takeshita match out at the beginning and just had the two semifinal matches here on this card. I think they didn't do that because they're trying to build to the finals match, which will be on a pay-per-view, maybe at World's End. And yeah, I think they just timed it poorly, doing the quarterfinal matches prior to Blood and Guts, so you couldn't do the semifinal matches in the lead up to this pay-per-view, so you have to extend it out to World's End. I think it's just a little bit messy booking, and this match didn't really need to be here. I would have much preferred to just see the advancement of this tournament with the semifinal matches. So no need to be on the card, really just spinning our wheels for no reason, and the action wasn't really good enough to justify its place either. On its own, either the action not being too great or it not belonging on this card, you'd probably get it somewhere in like the sub 3 stars range. But those two things combined, I really didn't have a lot of time for this match. I didn't enjoy watching it, especially when I knew there was greatness to come up. It sort of just felt like a slog to get through this. So I gave it 2 out of 5 stars. Probably a little bit harsh, but I just like when the action and the work rate is really good. You can probably understand that based on the rating I gave the previous match. And this just didn't have that good of work rate, so I really had no time for it. FTR beat Brodito for the AEW World Tag Team Championships next in an honestly fantastic match. One of the best matches of the night. The beginning was a little bit slow. There was an extended FTR heat sequence that was pretty uninspired, and there were some spots they went for where you're just like, I think I can see what they're going for, but they didn't really get it properly, so you can't, really be invested in it for that reason. But once they started getting going after probably the first 8 minutes, it was incredible. They had some awesome near falls at the end of this match. And I feel like this match, as well as a few other matches on this card, were really aided by the unpredictability. You weren't sure who was going to win. This match was really 50-50. It could go either way. You could see FTR taking the titles and going on this dominant heel run as champions, or Brodito are hot. People love them. They have great matches. It makes perfect sense to stick with them as champions as well. So you could really see it going either way, so you really, really bit on the near falls, and that aided them at the end of the match. But they were also so cleverly incorporated. Some of the uses of a big rig from both teams, really, really great stuff. I also loved how they characterized all 4 people in this match. Brody King at the beginning, sort of just being this bastion of a man, this really dominant guy as he always is, but sometimes in these tag matches it can get a little bit lost and he does a little bit too much selling for me. I feel like it was nailed perfectly in this match. Bandito towards the end of the match just refusing to give up, refusing to lie down for the pinfall. So effective at showing his character and really capitalizing on the investment the fans have given him this year as ROH champion and AEW tag team champions, the good reputation he's built up with the fans. They did a really good job about capitalizing on that. And they really effectively told the story of FTR is the better team in this match. They've been working together longer. They know the cutoffs better. They know how to form a tag match better. But Brodito just will not go down. They have the heart. They have the fans with them. They have the spirit much more. And I don't typically like that kind of, over the top melodrama in my matches, but they nailed it pitch perfect here. I was so impressed by this match. If not for the slow bits at the beginning, I would say this would be a perfect match, but I got to knock it down one peg. I gave it 4.75 out of 5 stars. Damn near perfect. Some of the best tag wrestling you'll see all year in this match. Casino Gauntlet match for the first ever AEW National Champion next. Right off the bat, the match had an uphill battle because myself, and I'm assuming a lot of other people watching, absolutely did not care about this new title and actually did not want to see a new title introduced into AEW, on a show where we're also getting reminded we're getting women's tag team champions, the AAA trios champions were on this show. It's just a little bit too much. The match itself, though, was very fun. It is a Casino Gauntlet match, so there is a lot to love. Before we get to that, let me talk about what I didn't necessarily love. I didn't love how they teased Bobby and Shelton and then didn't deliver on that because I was genuinely excited to see those two go at it, and I was intrigued by it. It felt like a little bit of a rug pull that we didn't get them, and Ricochet came out like 30 seconds after them just doing a lockup. Whatever. The match was fun, but never surprising, really. In previous matches, you've gotten Nigel McGuinness and Zack Sabre Jr. and Ricochet, and in this match, we had Matt Menard, and no shade on Matt Menard there, but he's not really as big of a surprise or as exciting as those previous names I mentioned. I can't really say there were any surprises in terms of entrance or action, but who we did get was really well integrated into the match and really, really fun. I think the Death Riders all coming out one after the other, and Ricochet continuously being more and more surprised that another Death Rider was coming out was a lot of fun. I think they did a really good job about building Ricochet as the winner because coming into this, I was sort of ping-ponging back and forth who I would like to see. I would love to see Claudio with the championship. I didn't think he was going to win. Could have been Cassidy. Could have maybe been a return. And then as the match kept going on, I was just like, oh, it's Ricochet. Ricochet should be the champion. And I was really pushing for him to be the champion. So then when he did sneak in at the end and get that win, I was really happy for him. I was genuinely happy that Ricochet was the new champion. And I think it works on two fronts. Sort of the adult viewers are able to appreciate the heel work Ricochet's been doing and are happy to see him get this win and get this championship. And any kids watching probably hate Ricochet because he's an absolute dweeb, and seeing him win the championship and steal it away from like Bailey and Cassidy and those other faces who were in the match was probably really effective heat. So not a surprising match, not a blowaway match, but really effective and really fun throughout. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Casino Gauntlets usually reach about that peak. There's sorry, not that peak, that floor rather, because there are ones that peak higher that get into that 4.5, 4.75 range. But yeah, they're always just going to be fun. They're always going to be really back and forth action, and this was just another one. So it probably won't stand out in years to come, but as a viewing experience on the night, a lot of fun and a lot of love for your new international championship. Not international champion, national champion, Ricochet. Love you, Ricochet. In what I would consider to be a surprise win next, Kyle O'Reilly beat Jon Moxley in, I don't know what the no holds barred was the stipulation. I just call it death jitsu. This match was good on one front, bad on the other. Very good in terms of the violence, the blood, whenever you're doing stuff with a fork and you were doing more of a plunder brawl style match. Very, very good. When you were doing a more technical wrestling style of match, not so great. And I would put that on the shoulders of John Moxley. I feel like that sort of encapsulates Moxley in my mind, where when he's brawling and when he's doing weapons, fantastic. When he's going for a more technical map based style, a little bit boring. The fluidity is not really there. And when you are, in a wrestling industry that has Zack Sabre Jr. in it and that has someone like Kyle O'Reilly in it, you really need to, if you're going to be technically wrestling, be doing it at its highest possible form. And this just wasn't. So I was a little bit down on the match as a result, because I do love when they get on the mat and do the techers. But the bleeding and everything else was fun. I feel like it did a really good job about setting up O'Reilly as a winner and maybe potentially going on to face Samoa Joe in the future. Maybe that'll be his first challenger. I thought it was good. I didn't think it was great. I definitely didn't love it as much as most other people, because I feel the fluidity in the exchanges was not there for me. So I give it 3 3/4 stars. Still a very good match, but didn't really reach greatness for me. In our next match, Mark Briscoe beat Kyle Fletcher for the TNT Championship. Not really that surprising when you see the video package and the stipulation that Briscoe was going to be joining the Callis family if he lost. But a phenomenal moment, and this is the match that I gave 5 stars. I'll say it right off the bat. Maybe the best plunder brawl that I've ever seen, because I feel they measured everything so right. They didn't go too far over the line like Kyle Fletcher sometimes has a tendency to do. That was one of my big gripes in his match with Hangman, was he went a little bit too far for me. But I feel they measured it perfectly in this match, and they got right up to the line as well. I feel like in Plunder Brawl sometimes they are just an excuse to do a couple table spots, do some spots with the kendo stick to pop the fans. Sort of a cheat code for getting an easy pop. This wasn't what this match was. This match really cleverly incorporated a lot of its spots and continuously escalated the violence. And even when we weren't doing weapon shots, you were watching Mark Briscoe versus Kyle Fletcher. This is like their 5th or 6th match. Every single one of them prior to this has been great. There was one, I don't remember if it was earlier this year or late last year, but they had a match on pay-per-view that was sort of like, oh, I don't really know why they're throwing these two on pay-per-view. It wasn't for a title or anything. It was just a random singles match. And it was like blow away one of the best matches on the entire show. It was an incredible match. And I feel like this match supersedes all they've done in the past. One, because you have the moment of Briscoe winning, but also it really ramped up the violence. You're still getting that hard-hitting offense where, they're connecting really well, they're making the noise, they're doing all the things that really makes you believe they're hitting each other, but then they're also doing weapon spots that look so off the wall. And you're going to get that with Briscoe and Fletcher at this point. They've both shown themselves to be guys who will ramp up their violence and their offense in these settings. There was one spot in particular that I sort of lost my mind over, and it wasn't even a move. It was a tease of a move. It was when Fletcher put the screwdriver through the turnbuckle with the sharp end facing up, and he was making like he was going to brainbuster Briscoe on the screwdriver. I was literally mouth agape at that spot, even though they didn't hit it. I just thought it was so much fun and really portrayed the levels that these guys will go to hurt each other. I thought it was a perfect match. There is a perfect style of everything, and this was the perfect plunder brawl because it showed the animosity that these guys had for each other, showed the lengths they were willing to go, really pushed the characters of both guys forward as these sort of suicidal maniacs in the ring who are willing to do whatever it takes to win, and gave us an incredible match as a result. So I don't know what more I could have asked for this match. I absolutely loved it. I thought it was the best match on the show. No contest, really. 5 stars. Next up for $1 million, it was Jurassic Express teaming with Kenny Omega to take on the Young Bucks, who were teaming with Josh Alexander. I'm definitely going to be the high guy on this match as well, same as Darby versus Pac earlier. I really, really loved it, but I can see where other people might not have because seeing the Bucks and Jurassic Express and Kenny all in the same ring is a little bit old hat at this point. A lot of the spots that they are doing, you're sort of just like, yeah, I've seen this in other matches before. I know what they are going for. In particular, Nick Jackson and Jack Perry at the beginning, just doing some flips that felt sort of soulless. That I didn't really love that spot, and pretty much everything Luchasaurus did in this match is just copy and paste from things he does in every match. So I can see where people would definitely feel this is uninspired, but for me, when I'm watching a Young Bucks tag trios, 8 man, whatever it is, they always come up with one spot or one sequence that really blows you away and is something you've never really seen before. Or if it is something you've seen before, it's so brilliantly incorporated into the body of the match that you're not expecting it to come when it does. And it really blows you away when it does happen. And there were about 4 or 5 of those spots in this match for me. Some really, really elaborate sequences that I thought were expertly crafted. And I feel like Kenny Omega looked incredible in this match. And it's Kenny Omega. He's one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. I don't need to say that he looks incredible in a match, but in some of his outings, since coming back from injury, the Gabe Kidd match excluded, he's been a little bit wonky in some of his offense, not 100% connecting like he should, but he looked perfect in this match. And Josh Alexander was his perfect foil while Kenny was doing the big over the top moves, really trying to pop the crowd. Josh was trying to ground him and really trying to wear him down. I thought those two had such a great dynamic, and I'm looking forward to seeing a singles match between them in the future, which could be incredible. So I really, really love this match. I had a lot more time for it than most people, and I think it is because even though I agree the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega fighting forever, then teaming, then fighting, then teaming, it is getting a little bit old, but they're always able to work me into just loving the dynamic. So I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. Probably a little bit high, but I loved it. I love the Bucks. I love Kenny Omega. I love Josh Alexander. I don't love Jurassic Express, but I love this match. Chris Statlander retained the AEW Women's World Championship against Ultimo Mercedes Moné next. These two have sort of eternal chemistry. They will always be great together. They had 2 fantastic matches at the end of last year. I think it was like, it might have been Full Gear and then World's End last year when they were fighting for the TBS Championship. Really great stuff back then. And similar to those matches, this match had a real air of not knowing who's going to win because you could make the case for either one. You could see Mercedes finally hitting the top of the mountain and becoming the women's world champion with now like 15 titles or whatever. But you can also see the benefit of having Statlander win, go on a longer title run, and that'll both inform her character and sort of solidify her in the ranks with like a Tony Storm as one of the top people in the women's division, but also making Mercedes Moné have all of these titles, but ultimately it being pointless because she can't win the big one. That is the story that I feel they're going to end up telling. And I'm interested to see it, but just back to this match, I feel like there was a down point in this match. The arm working over sequence with Mercedes working over Statlander's arm, a little bit too long. I feel like the same effect could have been achieved in 2 big spots. Maybe like an arm wringer from the apron to the floor, throwing the arm into the announce table, something like that to really show that it's damaged rather than working it over for 3 or 4 minutes. That did take the air out of the match a little bit. And I get why they did it. Having Chris go out at the beginning, throwing out a lot of big power moves, and then having Mercedes slow it down a little bit and be more methodical sort of matches their characters a little bit, but it was a little bit boring. After that, though, the arm work did ultimately pay off because it created a really interesting dynamic towards the second half of the match where they were going back and forth with big power moves. I thought both people's selling was really, really fantastic, and once again added to that dynamic of just the uncertainty of who is going to win, constantly moving the momentum back and forth. Big fan in this match. I feel like it was great, especially Mercedes. I feel like she was phenomenal in this match, but I do feel like that sequence where they were working over the arm was a little bit too long. So what could have been a 4.5, 4.75 star match is a 4.25 star match. Still great stuff. Another fantastic match between these two women. And if they want to fight on every pay-per-view for the entirety of 2026, I am so game because they always have great matches. In your main event, you had one of the biggest shocks of the evening. Samoa Joe beat Hangman Adam Page for the AEW Men's World Championship. Um, it was a match that suffered for being in a steel cage because we're just coming off 2 weeks ago seeing Blood and Guts, seeing Kyle O'Reilly and Sky Blue absolutely bleed buckets, have two of the greatest blade jobs you've seen in a while. So even though Samoa Joe was better and he was bleeding more and it was more effective in the story that they were telling, it sort of was diminished because we're just coming off of the heels of that. There's so much of that. And even on this show, we're seeing Kyle O'Reilly and John Moxley bleed, Fletcher and Briscoe bleed. There's a lot of it that made this match feel diminished, and not even for the fact that this match took place in a steel cage. That also, we just had two great cage matches, or I shouldn't say great cage matches because I didn't actually love either of them, but two cage matches that a lot of people loved 2 weeks ago. You're getting War Games in another 2 weeks. I just don't think this should have been in a steel cage. It didn't diminish the match as a result. It was still a very good match, though. Meat and potatoes wrestling, not a lot of fancy stuff, just a lot of hard strikes. Got in, got out. This match was probably like 15 minutes. I actually have it pulled up right here. 16 minutes and 2 seconds. It felt like it went by in about 8 or 10. Really brisk. Liked it a lot. The interferences at the end I didn't necessarily love. I liked how it, Powerhouse Hobbs's interference facilitated them opening the cage door so Hangman could do the buckshot. I thought that was a fantastic spot. I love that so much. So creative, so much ingenious, sequencing there. And Joe won, which is weird. I mean, it's weird that Joe beat Hangman for this title because not that Joe is going to be a bad champion. He was a very good champion at the start of last year before losing it to Swerve Strickland. But they haven't really been building Joe as a significant singles threat for long enough for me to take him seriously as the world champion and not just view him as like a transitional champion to either lose it back to Page, lose it to Strickland, maybe lose it to some sort of returning wrestler. I'm not sure what the plan is, but similar to Pac winning in the first match, I don't necessarily have the confidence in the booking that they will effectively be able to tell whatever story they are attempting to tell with Samoa Joe as the world champion. I'm not upset by the decision. Hangman is better on the chase than he is as world champion, even though I don't really feel like we gave him a fair shake during this title run. He's had one feud with Samoa Joe, and that's it. I don't hate the decision. I don't even hate the way that they did it, having all the ops interfere and Hook turn on Hangman to get the title off of him. Really made Hangman look strong even in defeat. I'm just unclear of where we're going from here, and not in a good way. Not like I'm excited to see where we're going. I just don't have confidence that we're going anywhere good or effective. For the match, though, it was a very good match, sort of diminished by some of the run-ins, and, as I said, diminished by Blood and Guts being 2 weeks earlier. As it was, I give it 3.75 out of 5 stars. Some pretty solid action. Joe bleeding buckets. It was a very good match. in isolation, but just all the factors around it, the oddity of the title change, blood and guts being a few weeks ago, it did diminish the action a little bit in my eyes. And those are my thoughts on AEW Full Gear 2025. I want to know what you thought down in the comments below. Do you think Fletcher versus Briscoe should have gotten 5 stars? What did you think of the main event? Was there anything I rated too low, too high? Let me know down in the comments below. And while you're there, like, subscribe, leave a comment, all this stuff that really, really helps a new channel like mine to grow. I want to thank you guys so, so much for watching. I have been Isaiah from Hot Tag Wrestling, and I will see you next time.